Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP John Paz. With me today is a very special guest, a former Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champion. He is, of course, a member of the vaunted Carnage Crew. He is Mr. H.C. Loke, the Extreme Referee. Loke, how you doing today, sir?
Good, brother. How are you? Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, no problem. I am doing good. What's been going on in your world? What have you been up to?
A lot of wrestling, man. It's 26 years now. I was just trying to figure it out the other day. I've had over 100 this year so far. And running the school, keeping busy. Lots of wrestling in my life. I'm a lucky old man.
What's the school?
Fighting Arts Pro Wrestling Institute is what we're called, and it's I actually had a building put up for it, so it's a cool thing. It's a permanent home for a gym and dojo and all those things. We have a couple TV set up so we can do tape studies, and my ring's in there, and we run about 4 nights a week in there, depending on how much I'm on the road. And real lucky, got some good kids coming up.
Where's it at? Where's it located?
Campbell, New York. That's my hometown. So small little town,
Upstate?
upstate. So if you look at Binghamton and Rochester on the map, and you would take I-86 to get from one to the other, I'm directly in the middle there. So pretty cool. We have people. I've been lucky, lucky to have a pretty decent resume, which we'll probably get into here. So it gives me a little bit of attention. So I have people driving in from all over. They'll come in for the weekend or whatever. So to try to come in, and we coach them up a little bit and send them on their way, and it's going well.
When did you start the school?
This version of this school, I would say, gosh, we're probably only 3 months into like officially having a name and having a building. I've been training guys for too long, way too long. I mean, like since I went to wrestling school, started in 1994, and by 1996 they were having me help teach the class, which is not what you should do. But I didn't know anything at the time. But so I've been training guys on and off that whole time, and maybe over the course 4 or 5 years, there's been some small indies around by me that have asked me to help run a school or be in charge of their schools. And for various reasons, I got a hold of some good guys out of that, but whatever money on their end or building trouble. Well, COVID hit. That was the big thing. We lost a building with one of them. So I said, you know what? Heck with it. We, my future wife and I, we bought a ring and bought a building and said, there, now this thing will never go anywhere. We got a place for our kids to be all the time. So it's pretty cool.
Now, you've been around the business for a long time. You said 94 start, 96 you started training guys. It's pretty
Yeah.
pretty
And like I
impressive
said,
looking back.
that's not advisable. I didn't know enough to teach people, but the guy, it was, but I was doing good. So they let me help out. But yeah, my first match ever was January 15th, 1995. So coming up on 27 years, 26 and something now. So yeah, I've been around a long time.
Wow, damn, that's pretty damn impressive. When you do like the teaching in the school and stuff, what's like the style or because sometimes you hear like WCW Power Plant, oh, they're working into the ground. You don't get in the ring for a while. Then when you get in the ring, they really work you hard. Like, what's your style? Are you hard on the guys? Or are you kind of a player's
Well,
coach?
I would say as far hard on. I'm picky. I would say that we want to do things the right way. It's real easy to develop and then keep bad habits in our business. Little things you can do, or not, or should not do. You mentioned the power plant and that drive you into the ground, work you to death type of thing. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I don't do, and not because that's not good. I spend a lot of time telling the guys about what they should be doing, diet and exercise wise, and and in the gym. But at the same time, that's what you do on your own time. To me, it's uh, there's some just basic truths. If you don't want to put in the effort to be in decent shape and have a decent look, then you're limiting yourself. So when you're with me, when we're here at the school, I talk about that. I've written diets out for guys. I've written workouts out for guys. But when we're actually physically training, it's all about wrestling. It's all everything we do. I don't want to say everything we do goes inside the ring because we have a lot of guys, and sometimes guys are rolling around outside on the mats and stuff. But it's all based on actual pro wrestling and wrestling techniques as opposed to we don't do the whole thing. All right, go run up that hill and back down 20 times and get in the ring and do 1,000 squats, and then I'll teach you how to lock up. I'm not saying that that's a bad way to do it, but I'm more about, you need to be in shape, but let me teach you how to wrestle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I hear some crazy stories about schools where it's like, oh, we didn't get in the ring for 30 days, or we were running circles, and all this like crazy stuff. It's like, wow, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I see some value in that. You have to work hard. You have to pay your dues. You have to show you really want it. But there's also a certain element, and not talking about any specific schools or trainers, but there's also a certain element of, and there always has been and probably always will be in the business of, well, if I can get this guy to quit, I don't have to give him any money back, and stuff like that. And that's not how I do things. I mean, I would say I might have years ago, before I mellowed out a little bit. I'm still just as strict on, you need to respect our business, respect our etiquette, respect the veterans, follow some of these unwritten rules that we have, and those things will never change. But as far as that whole like hollering at guys or being super military like, I kind of take a different approach. I guess maybe that's part of getting older. I don't know. It's a very positive vibe. I believe in, we're all getting better together in there, but positive until someone for any reason were to, be disrespectful or something like that, then that can switch if it has to. You have to kind of, there's you have to kind of protect our business a little bit, you know what I mean? And there's certain way you should act and talk and all those things. But yeah, none of those, run 50 laps and then, do some squats and then I'll teach you how to take a back bump or something like that. No, we go right to wrestling.
It's funny, both well, not both, but two of the members of Carnage Crew, you and DeVito, both became trainers. You know what I mean? That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
We're kind of, yeah, I always say Tony is kind of, as corny as he sounds, he's my wrestling soulmate. I talked to him today. We're always kind of right on the same page, and not so much that we always think exactly alike, but we complement each other well. So, and yes, we both had some good luck training guys, or at least had our at least helped, if not trained from scratch, coaching. For instance, he's had some names that you would definitely know. Like Bobby Fish is his student, and Dutch, who's in ROH now. Bill Carr is his student. And I had Dunn and Marcos were mine. They were Ring of Honor standouts. And I always get credit for Colin Delaney and Brody Lee, which is a huge honor. But actually, my students physically trained them. I was more uncle than dad in that respect. So that tells you how old I am. But I was around. I think I was there. I think I showed Brody his first bump. God bless him. But but yeah. So yeah, we've been lucky. We've got a pretty good track record as trainers.
Yeah, DeVito had Cheech and Massive at one point. That guy, Massive. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't seen Massive in a long time. Yep.
With Brody Lee, how well did you know him, and like what was the training of him like? Because obviously, gone way, way, way.
Oh God, yeah. I knew him very well, and I say knew because when he went on to WWE, and this is, not to get on a downer so early in our talk here, but this is one of the biggest regrets I have in my career, is that thinking my heart was in the right place. When he went on to WWE, I checked in on him a few times, told him I was proud of him. I still have the messages where he told me, I really fucking appreciate that, man, and all that stuff, but and then you've been around the business a long time. You know how it gets when guys get a little bit of success. Everybody blows up their phone, hey, brother, and all that stuff, And I just want to let John be John, Brody be Brody, and live his life and have his family and do those things. And I didn't bug him, and I didn't reach out as much as I should, and then now it's too late, right? But you asked about training him. I wish I could take full credit for that. I can't. I was, like I said, he was doing backyard stuff at first, and I don't mean that in a bad way. That's just how he and Colin and a lot of guys started, and then they went around and they did it right. And I can remember when I was teaching a school called the NMW, New Millennium Wrestling, I think it was, up in Rochester. I can remember this big but shy, quiet kid sitting over there, and finally, come on, buddy, get in the ring. We showed him how to bump, like maybe for real, I think the first time. And I was always around then from the time he was having his I don't know what you call his first quote unquote real matches, and but he came up in the city of Rochester. When I've been there most of my career, I live like an hour and a half from Rochester, but I've kind of been in that scene most of my career. So I was always the, hey, will you watch my match? Is there anything you'd do different? Can we talk before or after the show type of thing, and I like that role a lot, especially now. That's so to that degree, I was involved in teaching him, but I wouldn't call it'd be an honor if I could, but I can't honestly say that I took him from scratch and that I was his sole trainer. Dunn and Marcos, I believe, were. So I kind of in that, one step away because I was their trainer, but yeah. So, but it was, before he passed, it was an honor to say that I had anything to do with him, and so he's so sorely missed for sure. We were at I went up to visit at Dynamite this last week when they were in Rochester, and of course they dedicated that show to him, and what a night, what an experience that was. Very cool. We miss them all. We all miss him.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable the way that all happened. He's obviously very, very young. He's only 41 years old. I mean,
Yeah, it's crazy.
crazy, way too young, just crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
With you, like going backwards almost a little bit, but with you, who was your trainer when you were breaking in? Like who taught you?
When I first started, my first intent, I didn't have any idea how to break in, and I didn't think that I would really be anybody would let me because I'm 5'8", maybe, and when I started, Rey Mysterio wasn't even on American television yet, and if he debuted in ECW, I didn't get it yet, so I hadn't seen. So not that I think I'm taller than him, but I was considered. There's no way somebody my size was going to do it, but I think PWI or one of those had Al Snow's school, an ad for it, and I called out there and I got information sent. And I was trying to get up the nerve to go, but I was so shy and I never left home, and I was pretty sure they wouldn't let me do it anyway because I was small. I had that in my head. That's what everybody told me. I mean, everybody, like my best friends and my family, and not in a negative way, but everybody was sure that they won't even let you try. You're not tall enough. So I kind of got spooked on that. And then this is why I say it was totally fake. Like this is what I was meant to do. Because somehow, some way, right then, the local tiny TV station news popped up that there was a wrestling gym opening up like 15 minutes from my house, 20 minutes from my house type of thing. So I went down there and I was their first student. And I've told this story a lot of times, but it's so true. And it always takes me right back to it. I waited outside in my truck for 45 minutes or an hour because I was getting up the nerve to go in because I was sure they were going to tell me I was too short. And so my game plan was, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to ask if I can train. They're going to tell me no. And then I'm going to ask them if I can just be the guy that sweeps up at the gym just to learn about it and just to be around it, and is there anything I can do? That was my plan. Ask if I could be the janitor at a pro wrestling school because I loved it and I wanted to know more about it and I wanted to be involved, but I didn't think they would let me do it. Luckily, that wasn't a factor. They just wanted, relatively cheap for those days. They wanted my $1,500 and they let me train. And Bob Bailey was the name of the man that owned the school. It was under the United States Wrestling Federation, which is where I had my first several matches. And there was a trainer named T.C. Reynolds, who was a journeyman out of Butler, Pennsylvania. And he was the guy that played Doink down there, and he wrestled as Batman sometimes, and just, a journeyman indie guy, that kind of guy. And Tom Bosnowski is his name. And I thank him every year on Facebook. But he might not have been a big star, and maybe, and forgive me, Tom, if you ever see this, might not have been the world's greatest athlete, but what a mind he had. He wasn't going to teach us how to do backflips by any means, and you don't need to know that, kids, by the way. But he could teach us how to tell a story, so relatively soon, I feel like I started picking up, kind of a little bit how to do this, a little bit how to tell a little bit of a story, I say soon, it was a matter of months, but But so that's who trained me. And then that's actually the school where, kind of in the old used car business, Carney way of the business, the owner figured out, man, I could pay TC to come up every other week instead of every week. And then Matt is my name, is our top trainer, and I can just have him show these guys stuff for free whenever TC is not here. So that's how I ended up kind of teaching too,
Gotcha.
maybe earlier than I should. But and then moving on, they would let me they met me in battle royals, and you set up the ring, and they started me off slow, which is cool. You know, I always try to get my guys to like ease in. I really eased in though for almost a year and a half. I just did battle royals and 8-man tags and 6-man tags. Finally did some straight up tag team matches. Just kind of eased my way in, and then my first singles match wasn't until 1996 actually, and that was against Steve Carino. So that was a pretty cool first singles.
Wow, looking back, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Carino,
of all
for
people.
sure. Yeah. And he was my biggest storyline really in ECW. So it's funny how things work out.
Yeah. What did you think of him back then? Did you see anything in him?
Yeah, 100. Well, yeah. I mean, and I recently, somebody found, I don't know how it could have ever happened. Somebody found that tape and put it on YouTube. And I look back at it now, and I've always remembered it. Man, that was a pretty good first match. But you know, not knowing what I didn't know yet, I looked at it recently and I'm like, boy, Steve was already so good, you know, because he'd been around a year or so longer than me, and he worked his ass off to get me through it, you know. But I remember thinking that he was real easy to work with, and he was very helpful, and he treated me like a peer, which we kind of were. He'd been around a little bit longer than me, but he definitely was helping me. So yeah, I don't know that at the time I would have guessed the success that he had, you know. Well, but I mean, I wouldn't have guessed the success I had either. I mean, I was, you know, at the time considered short, and I'm average height. Now I see guys every weekend that are shorter than me, even, you know. But
yeah.
you know, I'm, you know, like I said, 5'8", and at the time, you know, didn't get the diet and exercise figured out yet, so kind of a puffy looking dude, and he was skinny and gangly, and we're two goofy looking kids, you know. And then fast forward, and you know, all these years later, and he's ECW world champion and 0-1 champion and NWA world champion and coach at the Performance Center, and I'm Ring of Honor tag team champion and the first guy ever hired to be a locker room agent at Ring of Honor, teaching a school now. And we were the two goofiest looking kids that you would never think would have a career. And I'm not comparing he's had his resume is better than mine, and I'm awful proud of him. But it's funny to look at that now and probably think that those were the last two guys you would have picked that would have had decent careers. So, and he's done excellent, and I am quite proud of what I pulled off too. So,
when did you start doing like enhancement matches for WWF and WCW and stuff?
that would have been 97, 98. I mean, most people talk about my match with Luna. You know, I don't know if you know about that one.
Yeah,
but
yep.
that was
That's like the first
98.
ever, like, not intergender, but might
That's
be
what
the
they
first
called it.
ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's what they called it on Raw, the first intergender match in WWF history. So, I mean, I don't know, you know how they are. I don't know if they say that now. They changed their history, but that was kind of cool, you know, at the time, and because that's it's fairly big now, you know, and I didn't realize that I was a part of any type of history at the time. That's where my lack of size for that time came in handy, because in all honesty, Raw was already being taped. That was a taped Raw, but it was already, you know, matches in the ring. It was going on when they came up with this idea. And I had been told I wasn't working that day. And, you know, and then Tony Gurria came up to me kind of laughing, basically, yeah, you're going to work with Luna. All right. Yes, sir. And it went really well. And, you know, of course, Dustin roughed me up a little bit beforehand, and she was sweet to me, and they were cool. And it's pretty neat, you know. And but, you know, again, it was a different time. I remember after that, for some old timers, and now they call me an old timer, but the guys that were old timers then, only a couple of them, but one in particular, I still live with my parents, but called me at my parents' house to yell, "You should have told them you were sick. You should have told them no. They'll never use you. You buried yourself." Well, Turns out I didn't bury myself too bad. I did okay, but
Right.
at the time, this veteran's telling me, I shouldn't have done that, but you do what you're asked to do. And every time you're given an opportunity to step into a ring, whether it's to win or lose, to a man or a woman, to somebody bigger or smaller, if you got 2 minutes or 20 minutes, it's an opportunity. And it's a chance to get better. It's a chance to get seen. It's a chance to pick up a new trick. And I was glad I did it then. I'm glad I did it now.
Why did they say you buried yourself? Like they didn't want you to do that. What was the reasoning?
You know what? You kind of broke up a little bit there, buddy. Can you ask me that again?
Yeah, what was the reasoning that they said you shouldn't have jobbed, like you shouldn't have done it?
Because she's a woman. How dumb is that? I mean, that sounds ridiculous in 2021, but in 1998, the mindset
Right.
was a little different, and that was 100% why. I can remember. I'll tell you exactly who it was, and I like him a lot, but you might not remember him. But AJ Petruzzi, well, he was a big enhancement guy in the 80s, and he was there all the time on the road with him and stuff like that, and called me at my parents' house to tell me, you should have pretended you were sick. You should have gone, like yelling at me, and I'm like, oh man, did I screw up? And next time they call you for at least a year, you tell them no, you don't go back to any more tapings, blah 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 blah. And I did shy away for a little while, and then it didn't end up really being that big of an issue because shortly thereafter, I went to ECW. So it didn't end up mattering anyway. And I didn't, in hindsight, it wouldn't have mattered. I did what I was asked to do, and I believe I did it well, and I was told I did it well, and that's what you do, But at the time, that was a big, oh, you got beat by a girl. I got beat by a girl who's tougher than most men. Not to mention, I got beat up by Dustin Runnels beforehand, who's a foot taller than me. So I don't think that it looked too fake. It was, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, the way it was executed on TV didn't really make you look, like, oh, you lost a woman. If she's a complete psycho, like character wise, and
Right.
Dustin is a monster. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So no regrets on that whatsoever.
Did that get you signed with ECW? Did Paul take notice?
Oh no, I'm not even sure that he would have ever known. I mean, maybe he did, but what basically happened there was initially I just showed up, and how funny how things work out. I showed up to see if I could help with the ring, and Tony DeVito, my future partner, my wrestling soulmate, was on ring crew at the time, and Angel Medina, the Spanish Angel, who would go on to be his partner in ECW, they were on ring crew as among other people. I knew Angel from the Indies too, and yeah, man, come on in here and help if you want to. And then when you'd help with the ring, they'd let you get in the ring and work out, before the doors open, and we would do that in every town. And Tracy Smothers ran the workouts and stuff like that. And that day, that was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, the first time I showed up to do it, and I was the only local guy. And that very rarely happened, that there was only one, but I was the only guy that showed up that didn't work there to help and try to get in the ring. So and the boys would love that, to make a game out of that. It was kind of everybody against me, like it was everybody could tag but me, and they blow you up and blah 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 blah. And I didn't quit, I don't know how great I did, but yeah, come back sometime if you want to. That's cool. Thanks for the help. All right, so I came back for 2 or 3 more weeks, and coincidentally, right around that time, I had been speaking to Dory Funk, and he'd done the dojos for WWE, WWF at the time, where they were, bringing Edge and Christian out of there and doing those little 1-week camps or whatever. And he started doing 1-week camps on his own down in Ocala, Florida. And I did his first one, and it was me and a guy, the Musketeer, who ended up doing a little bit in ECW actually, but it was me and a bunch of indie guys who went on to do well. A really good friend of mine that I went to wrestling school with, named Dave DeJohn. He wrestled as Danger. He's a big dude. I can't believe that he didn't get somewhere. And Amy Dumas, Lita, was there. That's where I met her. And we spent the week together. And myself and Amy and my friend Dave got really tight. And we we, went to dinner every day and, hung out in each other's rooms and stuff like that. And that camp went really, really well for me. Like I had everything clicking down there. And at the end of the week, there's basically only 3 of us that you train for a week, and then on the last day there's a live show. So there was the live show, and I had a singles match, and then I seconded Amy for her match. I was like manager dude in the corner, just taking some bumps or whatever. Then after that, myself, Amy, and my friend Dave Danger, we all asked Coach Dory if we could, have a minute with him. So we each went in one at a time. And I don't know why everybody else didn't do this, but we did. And they each got some feedback, and I did. And I can remember it word for word. He said, I think you're a great carpenter, which means you can build a match. And his exact words were, and, he might have been overshot a little bit, but his words were, he says, I think you can draw money for any company in the world, and I'd like to help. What do you think about ECW? That's what he said. I said, Coach, that's my dream. Thank you so much. Whatever I said, thank you. He called Tommy Dreamer the next day. The next Saturday, we were at the Elks Lodge in Queens, or ECW was, and instead of me just kind of helping with the ring and seeing if somebody notices me, it was help with the ring, and Tommy knew I was coming and said, you need to have a match, a singles match, pick an opponent before doors open. And I did that, and it went well. And basically, Dreamer said, I can't hire you on the spot, but if you would like to come to the shows, if we ever need a guy, if somebody's not there, I can get you worked in, and you can continue to show your face. So I did that for 2 months straight, made every single show, not getting paid, mind you, and not because of anything you might have heard about ECW in the way,
right.
But because I wasn't on the payroll yet. And I'll tell you, this is the coolest story of my career and one of the coolest stories of my life. Once again, it's funny how things kind of line up for me. My first match was with Steve Corino, then my big feud was Steve Corino, and then the first guy I saw when I went to ECW was Tony DeVito, and later he was my partner. And that day, the first guy I saw was Tony DeVito, was at Wilkes-Barre. So once again, we're back at Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. After I'd been coming to ECW for 2 months for free, getting to do like a run-in to get beat up here or there, do a pull apart, somebody bumps me. But basically, I'm setting up the ring and working out and doing everything I can. If I could have set up that ring by myself, I would have. Just paying your dues. You got to show people. I always told people then, tell them forever. If they're not letting you on the show yet, if you're not wrestling, you have to show them your work ethic somehow. You have to show them how hard you're willing to work for what you want. And I did. So the night before the Wilkes-Barre show, we're in a hotel room. I got the ring crew let me stay with them because they were my friends, so I didn't have to pay for the ring. And I called home to my then wife, and she told me she was pregnant with my son. I said, "Oh cow, holy cow!" I either got to get a job or I got to go home. That's all there is to it. We had 2 little girls at home, but we were just barely making it. She had a job, and I was on the road 3 or 4 days a week and doing carpentry the rest of the time, and living for the dream, trying to have the life, and so I was freaking out. And Angel, God love him, told somebody that story the next day. I'm quite sure it was Bill Alfonso. And Bill Alfonso comes up to me at Wilkes-Barre and says, "Do me a favor." I go, "Yes, sir." He says, "Go find Chris Chetty, Danny Doring, Tom Marquez, Bill Wiles, Tony DeVito, Angel Medina. Who else did he say? Danny Doring, maybe I already said that. But basically, these are all guys that either were on or had been on ring crew and doing all the behind-the-scenes guys at that level. Says, go find them and tell them I want to see them." "Yes, sir." And I did. And when I rounded them all up, they were all sitting in chairs, and there was one empty chair. And Fonzie goes, "Sit down." And I am pooping my pants, right? And he says, "This meeting is about you." And again, hoping for the best, but crapping my pants, and he says, I want you to know that over the course of the last 2 months, at one time or another, everybody in this circle, at least once, some of them more than once, has come to me and asked for me to go to bat for you. You're here, you bust your ass. No one told you had to. You do it anyway. We can see how bad you want this. We see how hard you work in the ring. And starting next week, you're on the payroll full time. Welcome to meet ECW if that's what you want. And I'm like, holy cow. And everybody like stood up like it was graduation day and, shook my hand or hugged me or whatnot. And I'm like, holy cow. And I got to call home. And again, my ex-wife tells her and tell my parents. I'm like, man, it's starting to happen for us. That was a real cool day. That was a good day. And then just to point out how friggin' old I am, my son just turned 21. So I can't believe that story feels like it was 2 weeks ago. But
wow.
Yeah.
That's
so that
crazy, though. That's how they basically tell you you're in. They get the whole group together to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they did that with everybody, but that's or if they did it before or since. But that's what they did with me, and that was a great day. And I was, it's hard to tell that story without sounding like I'm bragging, and I try not to. But I was proud of that day.
Very cool kind of way to break into ECW. What did you think about ECW when you first got there? Because you always hear the stories like, oh, the locker room is crazy. They all get along, but they're all nuts. And, like you always hear these crazy stories, drugs and everything else.
Yeah, that's all true. Pretty much, yeah, a lot of crazies, but all, and a lot of partiers and a lot of wild stuff, but very, very, very much a family. I mean, and clearly, it still is. We saw a bunch of Tony and I did a autograph signing at one of the Legends Fests here a month or two ago, and there's a bunch of ECW guys, and everybody gets together and gets pictures taken together, and you always have friends in the business, everybody, but it's not like there's, I don't know. I don't think you'd ever see like here's a bunch of people voluntarily. Here's 90s WWE guys getting together for a reunion. They might get together, but they're just the boys. This is ECW. This, and everybody that was there still, it's so much part of them. They consider themselves ECW. That it's in their blood. And it was a big honor to be a part of that team. So a junior member for most of my time, but earned my stripes as we went. But but it was great, man. It was some of my best times ever. But scary, super scary. In that you don't want to mess up and you don't want to. They were so adamant about, in a good way, paying your dues and doing things the right way. And you hear the stories about the craziness and the partying and the drugs, and that's all true. But it's all somehow still in a respect the veterans, do everything right, business done the right way kind of way. It was beautiful. It's kind of hard to describe, but certainly scary in that you're because the fan base is so rabid, like nothing before or since, and not so much scary as the style, you'd think it would be, but it was, once you got to know these guys, nobody's really trying to kill you, although that's not a place where you wanted to be disrespectful either. I mean, you didn't want to be disrespectful to a veteran or to the business or anything like that, because you'd get stretched, if you were lucky, you got stretched. If you weren't lucky, you just get fired. Right. But I do say scary in that I'm a young guy, and it's like you spend all day working your ass off, setting up the ring as fast as you can, getting dressed as fast as you can so that you can get in the ring with Tracy Smothers, and then do whatever duties are else are otherwise asked of you, and just praying that you get a match that night, because not everybody worked every night, and praying that you get a match that night. And then when Dreamer, whoever's walking around the lineup, half hoping you don't, which is because it's so nerve-wracking, but yeah, it was a great time. But yeah, I mean, you talk about paying your dues. I mean, that was old school, man. It really, really was. And it was I'm not one of these old farts that's gonna say these kids today don't know what it's like to pay their dues. Some of them clearly don't, and it's probably been that way forever. And I know some of them do. But speaking for me personally, There was many a day in ECW where I drove the ring truck, set up the ring, worked out with Tracy, sold T-shirts while the people were coming in, wrestled, referee, and ring announced from backstage on the same show, tore down the ring, and drove to the next town in the same day. And that's paying your dues, you know. And I mean, there's driving from Columbus, Georgia to I can't remember wherever the next town was, only a couple hours away. But the ring truck was full, so I had to ride in the back of a 20-foot moving van, which it's a rider truck that's just painted to say ECW on. There are no windows in that thing. I'm on top of the ring, on top of the pile of stuff. Just the low man, you're the newest guy on ring crew. That you get the grunt work. But you do those things and you get through them together. Kind of, and with the other folks around there with you, and it gives you something to be proud of. And at the end of the day, I do. You're never ever done paying your dues, but if you want to be successful, there's always work to be done. But I earned my stripes, man. And when I get, for whatever anybody wants to say about me or the complimentary things, or if anybody has to say anything the opposite of that, I do know that I earned my stripes, and I'm proud to call myself a veteran of our business, and I feel like I earned it. So, and it really started there.
When do you become the extreme referee?
Salem, New Hampshire. Well, no, I take that back. I know I was I'd been doing the house show thing quite a bit, where I'd go out, and I didn't know who HC Loc was. I didn't know who that was until after ECW, to be honest with you. It took me till Ring of Honor to really figure it out. But I'd been wrestling in cut off jeans and whatever T-shirt I had or whatever I could find, trying to figure it out on some house shows. And I had a couple good ones. And I remember we were in Florida somewhere, and walking through the hallway, and I was walking with somebody, I don't remember who, and Dreamer said to whoever I was walking with, "Hey, you're going to work so-and-so on tonight's show." And I was used to not working TVs because I didn't have a spot there. I didn't have a character yet, or an angle there, or really anything. I would, so if I did anything on TV, it was just a run in or a pull apart or something like that. And Dreamer turned to walk away, and he turned back around, pointed at me, goes, "You," and he stopped and thought for a minute, and he goes, "You want a ref?" And I go, "If that's what you want me to do, sir, sure." And he says, "I know you're not looking to be a ref full time, but you've been doing really, really good, and I want to get you on the show so you get paid." Because there's no guarantees there. You got the nights you worked, you got paid. The nights you didn't, you didn't. Unless you're under contract. But guys at my level, our level, we weren't there yet. So
right.
So I refed, and that was cool. And then it would just kind of be I don't know how much longer it was after that, but it would go to a show. If I had a match, I'd have a match. If I didn't have a match, they'd let me ref just so I could get paid. Basically, it was a favor. Until we went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Steve Corino was starting his feud with Dusty Rhodes, and they wanted Steve to go out and run down the town, keep running it down, keep running it down, keep running it down. The idea was that I was the referee in the ring, waiting to referee his match or whatever when he was done with his promo. And I would get sick of him running down the town, and I would come steal the mic away from him and basically say that I'm from Milwaukee and blah, 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 blah. And you wouldn't last an hour on the streets of our city. That was the going home line. And I ended up cutting a pretty good promo, and the people were right there with it. And Steve was going to swing the cowbell, the rope and cowbell, and hit me over the head with it. Paul's idea was for him to swing it like a baseball bat, by the way, and hit me in the side of the head. But thank God Steve was looking out for me a little bit and swung an overhand, hit me. I was all ready to get some color and all those things, and boy, I didn't have to. And I went down, like, was all ready to gig myself. I could see with my heartbeat the pss, pss, pss coming out on the mat from that cowbell.
Yep.
And if you were to find that clip and watch that, you could see for a minute I slip out of character and remember that I'm the asshole that's got to clean this ring later. So instantly just for a second, I start wiping it like I'm cleaning it up, and it's just like a millisecond, like I went on
Yeah.
autopilot to do
Yeah.
that, and so we're sitting there, and I'm just bleeding to death, and it was a really good segment. I had to take the ambulance to the hospital that night. It was so silly to get however many 25 staples, I think, in my forehead, which Joey Styles called 57 and then 97. Every week got to be more and more. That was a big rib on television. Um, had to take an ambulance to the hospital, get stapled up. Had to take a cab back to the arena afterwards, still in the referee's shirt covered with blood. And my good friend, Tony DeVito and Angel Medina, had left the ring for me to be tore down because they're my good buddies. Again, pay your dues, kid. So, I went by and Paul happened to be sitting there. And I said, Paul, thank you for letting me do that tonight, sir. And he goes, "Look, that was fucking tremendous, fucking tremendous." And, because I'd cut a pretty good promo. And I hadn't had a lot of promo experience, to be honest with you. But sometimes, the light shines on you just right and you have a moment and you feel it. Yeah, I never had a mic in my hand in ECW up until that point, I don't believe. But I did, and it was happened to be the TV taping, and I did well, and I got lucky. So then we were kind of off to the races with that. And we ended up, I think maybe whenever those staples were out, we did something in Salem, New Hampshire, where Steve came out and got in my face or whatever a little bit, and I bickered back and forth and grabbed the mic again, and I challenged him to a fight, and he said, "No, you're going to fight my man Chili Willie, if you remember Chili." And it might have been his first TV match too. And he came in, we had a quick little match, and the finish being Steve tried to throw him the cowbell that he busted me open with. I booted him in the stomach, stole the bell from him, hit him in the head, covered him, and counted 3 myself and rang the bell. And people popped for that because it was a cute little thing. So we did that with a different heel on a lot of the house shows. We'd go around and a heel would come out, get in my face, challenge me somehow, either start beating on me or I'd beat on him until I hit a finish, count 3 myself, and ring the bell. And it was just a cute little thing. But that's how the Extreme Official became a thing. And until they added Danny Daniels, who was a heel referee, and we kind of feuded with each other there a little bit. But yeah, I got the question for forever. What was it like being a referee and then learning to wrestle? And no, I was a wrestler who had to be a referee for my character. But I guess it doesn't really matter. But I used to have to answer that question all the time. But yeah, it was fun.
Did you ever think like, okay, I got to pretend I can't wrestle because I'm a referee? You ever have that like conundrum?
No, I guess I didn't. And in all honesty, I never really thought about that, but that would have made good sense. That have made sense psychology-wise. But in all honesty, and maybe this was selfishness on my part, I was eager to show that I could wrestle so I could be a full-time wrestler.
Right.
In hindsight, why would it matter? I was on the show and I was physically wrestling every day, and I had a unique character that wasn't like anybody else on the show. And not saying that it came directly from me, and even if it did, it wasn't my idea anyway. But while I was doing that, they did something on Raw where Earl Hebner had to wrestle or something like that, and they'd never done that before. So clearly it was because there was a guy wrestling on the ECW show, not because it was me, but there was a referee wrestling, So it was a great spot. But
They saw the idea. Yeah.
right, yeah. And I don't want to say I was eager to get away from it because I wasn't. I was so thankful for it, but you pitch yourself. I want to be a wrestler, man. I want to wrestle full time. But in hindsight, that'd have been a great character to have forever. That was cool.
With Danny Daniels coming in, did you feel like it's kind of killing my thunder a little bit, or were you like, okay, this is good, we can do a little face heel dynamic?
I was 100% excited about that. Super excited because it gave me a feud instantly. And I did the thing with Steve Corino. We had some matches a little bit which involved Dusty Rhodes. I mean, how great is that?
That's
So
awesome,
I was so lucky. But when Danny Daniels came in, it was, now this is awesome because it's he and I kind of playing off each other always. There was and then we'd had a couple singles match. Hammerstein Ballroom, we had a match against 2 refs wrestling each other. And actually, speaking of the dumb little referee spots we would do, I did this spot where he's the heel, So he's choking me in the corner, and I counted 5 myself to try to get him to break it. No, it was dumb, but
Yeah.
trying to come up with cute little things. I loved Danny being there, though. It was awesome. He was a good friend, and he was a good worker, and we, it really gave us both something to do all the time. So it was very. And actually, had ECW continued, the plan was for me to switch heel, have us both wear like wrestling singlets that were black and white striped like referees, and we were going to be a tag team called The Law. That was Dreamer's idea, but we didn't make it that far. That was the plan. Yeah.
So was Paul kind of in charge, or was it more Dreamer? Because a lot of the guys are saying towards that era it was more like Dreamer and a little bit of Lance Storm when he was there, and a little bit of Raven mixed in when he was there. We're like doing a lot of booking. Was it more Dreamer or
It
Paul?
was yeah, it was more. It was very much Dreamer. I mean, Paul was the ultimate decision maker. Um, uh, but unless you were Rob Van Dam or Rhino or probably Steve Carino or a few of those top 4 or 5 guys at that time, um, you basically Dreamer would tell you what you're going to do, and you discuss yourself with him. Not that Paul was off limits by any means. I'm not saying that, but and certainly by the end, Paul wasn't coming to house shows, and I don't even think he was making all the TVs. I know he didn't, because I can remember right before we went in the ring one time, him calling with an idea for a spot he wanted to add to our match, and Rhino or whoever was frustrated because we're all ready to go and he's not even here. So we're trying to explain over the phone what he wants to see in our match. But yeah, it was mainly Dreamer. I mean, as far as Lance Storm, Lance is a hell of a mind, hell of a talent. I don't recall him having anything to do with anything. That at least nothing that had anything to do with me, and I never saw him have anything to do with people booking. And Raven kind of always did. I don't know if like in an official capacity, but he was considered a genius and certainly a mentor and one of the founding fathers there. So, if he had something to say, you'd listen, and he would offer that up from time to time.
What about Paul as far as being a genius? I love asking the ex-ECW guys. Was Paul a genius?
I 100% believe so. I mean, I've seen him. Especially when you think of like the way he would edit those shows, and just make them so so entertaining and so kind of must see. But if you watch them out of context, they might not be. You know what I mean? It's certainly not great production value. Certainly without the music there, and but he had this way of taking guys that might not be considered, the greatest talent in the world, and putting them in the right spots to make them superstars. And and I say at least on that level, but that was a pretty huge level. I mean, in all reality, just based on his work alone, the Sandman wouldn't have been anywhere near that, or even been given the opportunity to in any other company. But I certainly see Paul as a genius as far as that, and of course, right now the work he's doing is off the charts. But again, for me personally, there was a few times when he was super complimentary to me and very good to me and gave me things to do. But most of the time, I was working for Dreamer and seeking his approval most of the time. That was the big thing, and it's sometimes like when my guys will have a good match now, and I take them aside and tell them so, and tell them I'm proud of them, and I see the look in their eye, or see them sometimes get emotional, even because this stuff is very real on a level. I know right what they're feeling, because I can remember those times of getting out of the ring and it going well, and Dreamer telling me he was proud of me, and it was just like, man, that's, you don't even got to pay me, thank you. So it was, yeah. So yes, there's no such thing as a short answer with me. I run my mouth a lot when we get talking about wrestling, but yeah, Dreamer, I think, or Paul, I would definitely consider a genius. I considered myself more kind of working more for Dreamer, though, so I didn't get to see it that much as far as working with me, but I got to see it with other people.
What did you think about the end of ECW? Were you shocked, and were you at the final shows?
Yeah, I was. I didn't really. It just didn't really seem like it was going to go away. but I also can't remember seeing how it could continue either, if that makes any sense. But it was just like, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. And then it's gone, and it was such a weird time. And I almost was bitter about it for a little while. Because I didn't really think it was going to go. And then once it did, I was almost, and it sounds so terrible but I've gone a lot, we didn't make a lot of money. And of course, by the end, the checks weren't always coming and all those things, and for a while there, because ring crew drove, mind you, I didn't want flying anywhere. I'm on the road sometimes 4 or 5 days a week. At one point, I was gone for 3 weeks because we were so far away that it didn't make any sense to come home in between. We would do stuff like that sometimes. And, I've got a young family at home, and I'm not saying for a long time, but for like a few days, it was almost like it's kind of nice to breathe for a second. And then you think, well, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next? Or what do I do without this? And I don't know how long it was, but fast forward till, well, yeah, I do. It was, I guess it was when they started doing those one night stands and stuff like that. You kind of, are we going back to work or what's good? But clearly, that's what we all thought, but obviously it wasn't like that. It wasn't really ECW coming back, at least not in that, Paul and Tommy could just do whatever they wanted to again. So,
Yep.
So that didn't happen for a lot of us, but yeah, it was pretty shocking. But looking back, I don't know why I would have been shocked, because there wasn't any money and the houses were going down, and all of a sudden there wasn't lights at TV. We're shooting TV with the house lights on, and like I remember on a couple occasions, looking like an indie in a high school gym or something like that. When we'd gone from, when I was there, from the first TNN taping to the end of that, when that thing started, we had semi truck out there and lighting grids and all those things. And I'm like, man, I'm here at the right time. And man, 2 years later, or whatever it was, I don't know the timeline. It was the complete opposite, but it was shocking. It was hard.
When it all goes away and it's gone, obviously you end up in Ring of Honor about a year or so later.
Yeah.
How'd you get in with ROH? Is that a Gabe thing? Did Gabe end
Yeah.
up bringing you in?
Yeah. I'd actually formed a tag team, not the Carnage Crew, on the Indies, and I'd heard that those guys were doing that stuff. And I messaged them and sent them a tape of what we were doing, and I'd had kind of like a highlight reel tape, and he really liked that. So or seemed to like it enough, And his plan was for me to come in. I actually have the kind of cool honor of being like the first in-ring talent to walk through a Ring of Honor curtain, because I refereed the first match ever, because we were going to, that's what we got rid of the extreme official thing forever there. I did a couple ref spots on that first show, and then Homicide gave me the fork and gave me color and gave me his cop killer finisher. That was it. I was going to come back with my partner and challenge him, and that was going to be my first feud. And that was the plan until show number 2, when my partner at that time, who was pretty green, but he was a Tony DeVito student, actually, but a good guy, big guy, totally nervous and completely shit the bed out there, and to the point where they didn't want him back. And that's not me shitting on the guy. I don't know where he is now. Love him to death, if I were to see him. But that's just what happened. So Gabe called and said, hey, do you have another partner in mind that you can bring in? Is there something else? Actually, I think he said pick Dunner Marcos, because I brought Dunner Marcos to the first one with me to help with Ring Crew. And I said, that's great, but I didn't see that too much. I love those guys; they're my students. But I said, well, they're a tag team already. I said, what do you think about Tony DeVito, who was one of the Baldies in Carnage Crew? I love Tony DeVito. He's one of my favorite brawlers ever. And I said, let me give him a call, and I did, and Tony liked that idea, and that was then we were off to the races. So if you ever sourced out like the videotape of the second show of Ring of Honor, that's the only show I wasn't on, but I was on it. They just scrapped it from the tape. They just erased that whole thing of that previous partner from history. So that footage never saw the light of day. So it was, we were kind of everybody was right on the same page there. Like Gabe wanted us to come to the ring with some type of weapon. Think about what kind of weapon you want to bring. You wanted that to be our character. And for whatever reason, I had it in my head. PG-13 used to carry hubcaps on chains in Memphis to the ring. And I was thinking about that. And the next time we talked, before I could say that, he says, "Do you remember when PG-13 used to take the hubcaps to the ring?" I go, "Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking." And then he said, "Well, we got to think of a tag team name." I said, "All right." So the next time we talked, I can't remember. Either he was thinking Carnage Crew and I was thinking Cannibal Crew, or vice versa. But one of us said Cannibal Crew and one of us said Carnage Crew. And they're so friggin' similar anyway. It's still CC and both have crew in it. Yep. I'm like, this is meant to be. So we ended up with Carnage Crew, and the rest is kind of history. We ended up, I think we were meant to be an underneath team, and it's not like at first, but we were doing really good work, and went on, from there to have some real good feuds, some real good matches. Had a little run with the belts. Mine's right over there still, but that was when things really started clicking for me. I said earlier that I didn't know who HC Local was until I was 8 years in the business, and that was then. I can remember when Tony came in, and then we were feuding with Homicide, and we ended up having that match with Homicide and Abdullah the Butcher, and I was cutting promos for that, and I get this now. I get who I am. I'm just a dude who doesn't got to dress too fancy and likes to fight, but I don't care if you beat me up. I don't care if you kick our ass. We just want to fight you. And then I got it. Then I'm like, I knew how to talk. I knew what I was talking about. I knew how to act. And I have my students now that, one student, I love him so much. His name's TJ Epics. He's probably my top guy right now. He just had his 88th match, and he's just got 2 years in, so that's really good. And he's doing excellent. He's got some big things coming up. But he's like, I'm still trying to figure out what my character is, and he stresses out about it. I'm like, buddy, you're wrestling. You're wrestling, and you're doing good, and people like you. That's enough, okay? It took me 8 years to know who I was. So he'll get there, but that's when we hit our stride, right around then. Carnage Crew with Tony DeVito. That's when everything started clicking, and I knew, damn it, I'm good at this. I know I know what I'm doing now. So those were the good times.
And the feud with Special K, of course. You guys had a feud everywhere, basically.
Yeah, that was a big deal for us. That still comes up now. I still wrestle once in a while, and like in the last year, I wrestled Special K members, and that comes up in the promos or on commentary or whatever we're doing. But that was a big deal, and that was cool because Ring of Honor was set up to be a real territory and a real something that was supposed to make money over a long time, not just these one-off shows, So the Special K guys, who those were our guys to teach. That's why there was 1 million of them, and they were always fighting us so that we could teach them. And then Jay Lethal started there, and he's been their champion however many times, and he's still there, and we got to work with a bunch of good dudes coming up through there. So that was a good feud. That was probably the team we wrestled the most, was different incarnations of Special K while we were there.
And Dusty even helps out the Carnage Crew in that big scramble cage match in New Jersey at our best.
Yes, that was awesome. That was I had the idea of, hey, do you think it'd be okay if after the match Dusty brings a case of beer out there and we celebrate with the fans? And they liked that idea, so he did that, and we cut a few promos together. And man, how good is this? Is as good as it gets? I just main evented this thing, and the scramble cage match, which I helped invent. That was mine and Gabe's idea. They had the platforms up on the corners for the guys. I built those. So it's I got to agent these matches, and now here I have Dusty Rhodes coming out as part of it. Like, if that could have gone on forever, that'd have been great too. It was I just feel very lucky, very blessed about that. I have stories like that to tell you today. You know, it was cool. You know, I was very lucky. Worked hard for it, but it's still a lot of luck.
Awesome show. I was there. I mean, Dusty's there. Steamboat's on that show. I mean, that was great.
Yeah, yeah, that was fun. Loved having
Crazy
Steamboat on
cage.
posted. What's that?
Crazy cage match too.
Crazy cage match. Yeah, we had a couple of them in that building. That was the that wasn't that night, but that was the the infamous Teddy Hart story where he yeah, kind of everybody wanted to beat him up and threw him out of the locker room and blah blah blah. That was after a scramble cage match there, and but yeah, we always had some fun ones.
I think Jack Evans, right? Didn't he take a crazy bump that night too?
Yeah, he did a I just saw Jack at Dynamite this last Wednesday. He got his head shaved.
Yeah.
But he's doing well. Because I didn't see him in a long time. He gives me the big bear hug. But yeah, he did a double moonsault, double backflip off the top of the cage to the outside that night. Just nuts. I don't even know where you get the idea to maybe dare try that. But
Yeah.
those guys could do it.
It's funny. I don't like flips and all that kind of stuff in my wrestling, but I give him a pass just because he's nuts. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
It's like he's
I
great.
agree.
Yeah.
I think about the same way. Yeah. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so what was your feeling when you eventually faced Whitmer and Jacobs? You win the tag team titles. You and DeVito are finally the tag team champions of Ring of Honor. Pretty awesome.
It was awesome. It was I was emotional afterwards, because in our minds, you know how it is. And pro wrestling might be a work, but there's some titles that just feel like these are legitimate world titles. It means something, and that really did. And because it was getting so much attention, it was guys are getting signed out of Ring of Honor and all those things, and not that that was ever my goal. As a matter of fact, it was my goal not to. I wanted to be a lifer for Ring of Honor. As a matter of fact, that's a shoot. I can remember not that I don't want it to be read like I had an offer, but having a conversation with Tom Pritchard one day, he says, "Would you want to come to WWE?" I think it might have still been WWF, whatever. I said no, young and fairly young. I guess I was 30 something, and like no, I love what I'm doing. But not that he was offering me a job, but it was just a conversation. Um, but yeah, that really felt great. It was kind of a culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of years. And I did it with my best friend, so it was really cool. That was in New York City, so super hot crowd, and we had a great time with them, and we still stuff like that. That's stuff like that. That's as corny as it sounds, and I reference this a lot as it pertains to wrestling, but stuff like that, you get to live forever with that, because as long as there's pro wrestling fans, no one's ever going to forget that Ring of Honor was a thing. You know what I mean? And it's a major part of the industry. It helped change the industry as in some ways as much as ECW did. When it started to be faster paced, hard hitting athleticism, some more pure wrestling started to show up on WWE. Like we always said at the time, like WrestleMania 20, when you see Eddie Guerrero and Benoit winning both those titles that's from a pace that Ring of Honor started, where it's about being good at this in the ring. You know what I mean? And stuff like that was Ring of Honor contributed a lot to the industry. And if whether you know who HC Loke is or not, whether you know who Tony DeVito is or not, if you are a student of pro wrestling and care about it and look back, that's always gonna be there. As a cool thing we got to be a part of and something we got to do. So I'll always be proud of that. And it's funny, like I don't ask them to, but every weekend, usually, sometimes they don't, but a ring announcer will ask me my weight and hometown and blah blah blah, and they'll be introducing me, and they always add on their own. And he's an ECW original and a former Ring of Honor tag team champion. And I get to, that's cool, man. It's show business. The business is, it's about self promotion and getting over any way you can anyway. And I get to have those little accolades. I get to have those little things to go on my resume, and I'm awful proud of it.
Yeah, pretty damn good on the resume for sure.
Yeah.
ECW original and ROH Tag Team Champion. Now you mentioned you were a ROH agent as well. When was that?
That was most of my time. I would say I'm terrible with dates. I don't know how long I was there before it happened, but I was the first guy they hired to do that, and the only guy they hired to do that while I was there. And in all honesty, that's a regret I have. I could have made more of that. I really, really could have. But I would help guys with their matches and kind of go over finishes with some of the guys, kind of relay stuff to the talent. But I could have done so much more with it. I was very much about my career. And I don't want to make that sound like I was selfish, but it was that's cool. That's a huge compliment. You asked me to do that, and I'll help. But I'm focusing on, well, let me figure out what I'm doing in my match and blah, 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 blah. And, I don't know that I used all my time as wisely as I could have then. I do that a lot now, certainly not on that scale, like on a Ring of Honor scale, but there's 2 or 3 indies that when they book me, they'll ask me to agent other matches too. In fact, there's 2 places that book me in just to agent, which is cool. Just help other guys with their matches. It's an easy way to make a payday without taking any bumps. But
Yeah.
Basically, I could have made more of that. I honestly did. And, if to be honest, and if I'm going to be a good interview and a good coach for pro wrestling and a good trainer and a good veteran, honesty is part of that. At those times, and though my marriage at the time wasn't doing that great, I was probably drinking a little bit more than I should, and we were, having good matches and having a great time, but we were also, I say I'm going to not throw anybody else under the bus, but looking forward to having a few beers and having fun at the shows. And that was kind of my escape from my home life a little bit. And I can't help but wonder if I'd done more with the with my responsibilities as far as helping the rest of the talent, not just my own matches. I did, and I was always the guy that they would pull aside. People might pull aside for advice or just stuff like that, and which is funny. One of the huge compliment I got with either Gabe or somebody would say, "All right, Dreamer," because I'd be the guy that because that's a huge compliment because Dreamer was my man, So, but as far as like the actual agenting stuff, I did it, but I would probably, if I'm honest, I probably did the bare minimum of it because I was still kind of in my own world, a little bit, wanting to be a star myself and also struggling a little bit and drinking a little bit too much in those days. So, but that's not a thing anymore. So thank God. So, but it was cool. I mean, that's a little, if I'm writing a wrestling resume, I get to say, oh yeah, I was also the first guy in the Ring of Honor hired to be an agent. So that's kind of cool. So I do wish I did more with it though, if I'm being honest.
Now, as we hit the wind down, we head towards the finish here. What's next for HC Loke? What do you got up on tap?
I've got a lot of bookings. I'm going to keep doing this school. I'll try to do that forever if I can. Coming up in a month, before we started recording, I think I told you that I in the last few months I teamed with DeVito at WrestleMania week, where we had a 6-man, and New Jack was our 3rd partner, and that ended up being his last match. So that's sad, but also we're glad that we were around, and maybe a month ago, I teamed with Just Incredible at an indie show. And a month from now, November 6th in Binghamton, for a company called Excite Wrestling, myself and Masada, another member of the Carnage crew, are in a steel cage, hardcore, some are calling it death match. We'll see, against Cade, who used to be known as Stockade, who's known a lot in those world, and G Raver, who's a big hardcore deathmatch guy. So, and I don't do that. That's not something that I pull out of my bag of tricks every weekend. So, it's going to be pretty special. I haven't teamed with Masada in a long time. I don't know the last time he was even in New York to work. So you probably start hearing my dogs playing now. But, I'm excited about that. That's what's going on. All right. I'm really excited about that. And then as far as future, I'll be honest with you, man. I turned 47 years old this Friday, and I'm nowhere near done. if the industry's not done with me, I'm not done with the industry. Indies are going real strong for me, but I'll be honest with you, man. I want another little run somewhere on television, somewhere with that. Be it a couple more matches in Ring of Honor, something MLW, NWA. And I got to tell you, after visiting the folks at Dynamite this last weekend and seeing some friends there, I would love to do a little something in AEW. And I don't know if that's on the horizon. I got a couple friends there. I gotta go through the right channels. I would love to see that happen. And if I could write my own story, book it myself, I'd love to work a match or two, or as many as they have me, or 2 million if they want. But I'd like to get a couple matches under my belt, add a couple more things to that resume. And if then for one of those bigger companies, if I could start doing a little bit of that agent role or helping, so just being a veteran to talking to guys about their matches, helping out in any way I could that way to the younger talent, and then kind of parlay that into a little bit more of a full-time gig, that would be the dream for me. If it doesn't happen, I love being an independent wrestler. I love being a teacher. So we'll keep doing that. But that's the ultimate goal. The one more, every old guy says that, but 5 years ago, you'd say I was too old. These days, who knows, man? It's kind of a different world out there now. And there's a lot of guys getting opportunities at an older age. There's a lot of guys staying in there longer. And it's not like I'm starting from complete scratch where I've never been seen nationally before. No one's going to confuse me with the biggest superstars in the world, but you kind of know who I am a little bit, you know what I mean? So, and there's stories we can tell there. So if I can parlay that into maybe another little TV gig, doing a little something, that's the dream. I'm going to try. I'm going to try as hard as I can. And believe me, when I went to ECW, when I went to Ring of Honor, it wasn't because I was the highest sought after talent in the world and they came after me. I worked hard and I came after them, and I did really well at both. And I think I can do it again. I'm going to try. So we'll see.
Would love to see it. But before we let you go, where can everybody find you? Social media, plugs, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Certainly if you if Facebook is what I'm most active on, and if you search HC Loke, it will come up. It's in the parentheses after my shoot name, Matt Knowles. And I tried to switch it, but I can't figure out how. Again, going to be 47 this weekend, so I don't really know how to do that stuff. But I'm trying. But if you search HC Loke on Facebook, that'll come up. But Instagram is at HC Loke1, and Twitter. Anybody listening to this, John, if you want to share this would be great. If you want to jump on Twitter and go to at HC Loke1 and just throw me a follow, because I'm new to that. And I know that's a huge part of our game these days is your Twitter action. And I'm trying to really get those numbers up. I share something on Facebook. I share a picture of me wrestling on Facebook. I get 200 likes. I share it on Twitter. I get 3. So I don't know what I'm doing over there. Yeah, but I'm trying to figure that world out. So if y'all will check me out on those places and help me out, I'd really appreciate it. And I got some cool stuff coming up. And if things go my way, I'll have even some more cool things to announce pretty soon. So those are the places to check me out.
All right. Great stuff. HC Loke, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
Man, thanks for having me. It was a fun talk.